Hello, Bible readers. It's Tuesday, February 23rd. We're reading from 1 Kings, chapters 15 and 16, 2 Chronicles, chapter 17, and 1 Corinthians, chapter 10, verses 1 through 22. 1 Corinthians, this section is, my commentary says, the Exodus retold as a cautionary tale. Interesting idea. As much as Paul, we just got done with Paul kind of making a digression in his letter to the Corinthians about how, why he is an exemplar, a positive example of what they should be like and do and how they choose to love out of Christian freedom. He's also showing not all examples like himself are going to be positive examples for them. Some are going to be negative examples. Those wilderness Israelites were negative examples. Now, as we see, how choices that they made in the wilderness were negative examples for us, should we be judgy about those? Should we be condescending on those who made negative examples? Of course not. But Paul is saying, there's all kinds of resources and tools for us to grow our faith and grow closer to God. And one of the ways we can do that is learn from other people's mistakes. And they had some. I also wanted to take on verse 13. God will not let you be tested beyond what you can handle. Many people know this Pauline saying and shake their heads in bewilderment when they find themselves in awful circumstances. Two features of this text are especially noteworthy. Number one, the yous, Y-O-U-S, in the text are both in the plural. This is really important, meaning that the experience of the testing and the efforts at handling it are never presumed by Paul to be borne by an individual alone. Paul's assumption is that any testing you experience is never in isolation. A death of a spouse, for example, is also a death experienced by others. The bearing of the test, the handling of it, is never supposed by Paul to be done by an isolated individual. Others will always be bearing it with the one who is tested. So the text supposes that God will not test us beyond what all of us can bear together. It's one of those really unhelpful things that people tell themselves in the middle of crisis. Well, God won't give me more than I can handle. Well, it's not me. God won't give us. So this pandemic, and then make the list of the 20 million other things that have gone weirdly or bad over the last year. Never should any individual one of us say, well, God never gives us more. It's not about me, it's about us. God never gives y'all more than y'all can handle, is what Paul is saying. Can you tell that's a little pet peeve of mine? Verses 14 to 22, flee idolatry, get away. You're going to have neighbors that, especially in Corinth, you're going to have people all over who are worshiping all kinds of gods. Don't do that. That's what Paul's saying. Flee those other gods. Don't give in. When we get to the Old Testament, 1 Kings speaks to the reigns of Abijah and Asa and Nadab and Baasha. These are people we've become familiar with already. Yesterday's texts included this from 2 Chronicles. When we get into 2 Chronicles chapter 17 today, we start with a series of chapters, 4 chapters in all, about Jehoshaphat, which is one of the best names in all of Scripture, right? Jehoshaphat. He's obviously an important person to the chronicler. His story is going to tell us a lot about the relationship one can have with God. One of the questions that the chronicler is going to ask through the story of Jehoshaphat is, will we be making allies with God or with humans who separate themselves from God? The northern kings are, of course, the example of those who separate themselves from God. The chronicler is obviously writing as one from the south. But it's a real question. Do we, as we walk through this life, whether we're a king or whoever we are, do we journey through this life with God at our side, or do we constantly make allies with people who are obviously not in relationship with God whatsoever? Because that's what Jehoshaphat is faced with, and we see the consequences, both positive, as we start with Jehoshaphat finding God in obedience and blessing, but we'll see the negative side of those kinds of choices that can be made otherwise too. I am one with my God. My God is with us, all of us, at all times and in all places.